You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Hoorah! Radical Rant.
We've been covering the subject of drug dog searches here at Normal Show Live and the Normal Stash blog at stash.normal.org. Of course, the use of canines and their incredible olfactory powers has been used for many, many years to detect drugs, to detect explosives, to search for missing bodies, and so forth. And nobody claims that these dogs aren't incredibly talented and naturally gifted at being able to do so. The problem is that we introduce a human element into that in the form of the police handler. And I've got a couple of stories that illustrate the problems that I have with the use of drug dogs to pursue warrantless searches against cannabis consumers. This recent story comes from the Chicago Tribune, or an analysis of data from the Chicago Tribune that found 56% of drug dog searches in the Chicago suburbs found no drugs whatsoever. And an analysis of 3 years worth of data from suburban Chicago, the Chicago Tribune discovered that only 44% of all roadside searches following a canine alert for cannabis or drugs turned up any cannabis or drugs or paraphernalia. Shockingly, but not surprisingly, that success rate drops to 27% for Hispanic drivers. We are using these drug dogs here to alert, to justify a warrantless search that turns up no crime 56% of the time. And the justification here is not valid. First of all, we talked about the reaction to the master's unintentional cues. This was a story that came out of UC Davis and how they found drug dogs to alert 200 times falsely in this study. What they had done is they had brought 18 drug dog handlers and their dogs to an abandoned church, and they outfitted 4 rooms and told them there might be up to 3 cases or 3 alert spots, 3 spots where there would be drugs hidden. And in none of the rooms was any drugs hidden. Now, in the first room, there was nothing different about the room. In the second room, they placed a piece of red construction paper, which they told the police officers would indicate a room that had some sort of contraband in it. In a third room, they placed sausages and tennis balls, something that would be very interesting to a dog, not that interesting to a person. And in the fourth room, they placed both the red construction paper and the sausages and tennis balls. So we had 4 different rooms. We have 1 control room with nothing in it, 1 room with something that alerts a person, 1 room that alerts a dog, and 1 room that would alert both. And they found, while there should have been no alerts whatsoever because there was no drugs in any of the rooms, they found these dogs alerted over 200 times. Each one of these teams was given 5 minutes in each room twice and ended up with over 200 false alerts. And they found that the false alerts were more pronounced in the rooms that had the red construction paper. That is the red construction paper that would alert the cop to thinking that there was drugs in that room. The dogs pick up on the handler's subconscious signals that there must be drugs in the room and give the false alerts. Far more than they gave false alerts in the rooms that had no construction paper but also had the sausages and tennis balls that the dogs would be interested in. So we demonstrate in that study a handler bias that is subconsciously being picked up by these dogs in something that the researchers call the clever hands effect. Clever Hans was a horse back in the 1900s that the handler said could do mathematics. He'd say 2 + 3, and the horse would move its hoof, stomp its hoof 5 times. They discovered, of course, that the horse was reacting to subconscious cues from its handler. It couldn't really do math. So not only do we have the unintentional cues from the master here, but we also have a situation where these dogs are not held up to any standards of accuracy. According to this story from the Tribune, the dog teams are not held to any statutory standard of performance in Illinois or most other states, experts and dog handlers said, though private groups offer certification for the canines. Well, I'm sorry, private groups aren't good enough. If these are going to be used in a court of law and they're going to be used as an instrument of law enforcement, they need to be subject to laws, subject to the laws of the people to indicate their accuracy, their training, training and their handling. Also, let's talk about the possible racial profiling going on in here. The civil rights and advocates and Latino activists say the findings support complaints that police unfairly target Hispanic drivers for invasive and embarrassing roadside vehicle searches. The state's data, in which drivers and officers aren't identified, show that the average false alert led to a stop lasting nearly a half hour. One Crystal Lake search led to a 3-hour stop of a Hispanic man in 2007. He was stopped for a license plate registration violation, according to the data. Now, dogs do not have the human failings that have led to the targeting of minorities, but Virginia Martinez, a Chicago-based staff attorney for the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund, worries that an officer's bias can translate through the dog leash. She fears the drug-sniffing dogs are another tool to justify roadside searches of innocent drivers, the unfair consequences of what she called, quote, driving while Mexican, end quote. And when we compare that and we take that data where, 44% of the stops didn't found drugs in all stops, but only 27% found them in the Hispanic stops, add that to the UC Davis data about the unconscious cues from the handlers, and so you have a situation where if a handler believes that Mexicans are more likely to be carrying drugs, that belief translates through to the dog that picks it up, who then alerts, and then we've got the guys standing on the side of the road while you go through all their belongings. Now, they're justifying these. The police, by the way, the police are justifying this. They're justifying these failing grades. They're saying the 46% that turned up something positive is to be understood because sometimes these dogs, their noses are so sensitive, they're detecting the residue of cannabis or drugs, even as the suspects themselves don't have any actual cannabis or drugs on them. Again, from the Tribune story. Dog handling officers and trainers argue the canine team's accuracy shouldn't be measured in the number of alerts that turn up drugs. They said the scent of drugs or paraphernalia can linger in a car after drugs are used or sold, and the dog's noses are so sensitive they can pick up residue from drugs that can no longer be found in a car. Since September 2008, Deputy Jeremy Bruchetta has handled Sage, one of McHenry County Department's 2 drug-sniffing German Shepherds. Officers sometimes come up empty-handed in searches of vehicles that clearly once contained drugs, he said, recalling a traffic stop in which a man, reeking of pot, had a marijuana stem stuck to his shirt, but no drugs were found in the car. Alex Rothacre, who works with some 60 area police dogs and handlers at Tops Kennels in Grays Lake, rubbed a bag of marijuana against a cinder block on the wall. 2 German Shepherds he trained alerted on the block with little hesitation, earning sessions of play with handlers who control the dog's beloved chew toys. That's the defense? You're getting 44% accuracy rate here in detecting actual drugs, and your defense is that your dogs are alerting and you're throwing people's stuff out of the cars on the side of the freeway because maybe somebody smells like a crime? Somebody might have had pot on them when they were in my car, and so now I need to stand on the side of the road while the rubberneckers stream by and pass judgment and 2 or 3 police cars come by to dismantle my Hyundai? Really? Because I might have given a hitchhiker a ride who might have been, trimming in Northern California and had weed residue on his hands when he touched my door handle? I may have given my car keys to a valet parker who might have had, a baggie of cocaine in his pocket, and cocaine residue ended up in my car? That's the justification for putting me on the side of the road in handcuffs? Really? That a crime might have been going on? That we can smell somebody who might be a criminal? That's what we've come to in this country? What if someone were to, take some freshly harvested buds and rub them all over, state representatives' cars and police captains' cars and city council persons' personal cars and, let's go at random on luxury cars in jewelry store parking lots. Let's rub some fresh cannabis all over them so the drug dogs will false alert on their cars and put their rich ass on the side of the road getting the Cadillac torn apart. Let's see how quickly that policy changes. Oh, wait, I forgot. Don't bother. It's not like the cops are going to call the canines to search for drugs in those cars in the first place. This is what it's come to here in America, folks. We have defined drug dogs as being some sort of scientific instrument, when in fact, there's nothing to blame the dog here for. Don't blame the dog. I mean, they evolved to smell things and please humans. And that's all they're doing. They're going out there and doing their job, and they know that if they smell the drugs, it pleases their human handler. Now, there may be cops out there that are using these drugs reliably. There may be tests to show that these dogs can be used accurately. But until this can be shown to be a scientific item, we cannot use this to prosecute people in America. Imagine if we had some sort of wand, and we could wave this wand at you, and it would detect whether or not you're a child molester. We just wave this wand, and if it goes off, you're a child molester, but it's only accurate 44% of the time. You want to be waved down by the wand? You want that wand to possibly go off just because the cop thinks you look pervy? That's what we're doing with drug dogs in this country. When cops think you look like a druggie, when cops think your car might have drugs on it, they are causing their dogs either subconsciously or overtly to alert on those cars and to bust cannabis consumers, and the practice needs to end now. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Radical Russ. Stay tuned for Hour 2 Toker Talk Radio for Cannabis Carrying Ganja John. Take care of each other, tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.